and welcome everyone to the 2020 National Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Awards recognition ceremony. As we get started, let me go over a few instructions since this will be a new format for us. Today, as we are going to highlight the accomplishments of our National Teacher Award winner, Lynn Snow. She's from Thomaston, Maine. If you've not had already a chance to do so, please check out her full video story on our Facebook page or the National Agriculture in the Classroom website. There'll be an opportunity for Lynn and her state contact, Willie Grenier, to answer questions. So please go ahead and start communicating those through our chat box. We'll be selecting those as our interview goes on and just filter those right in. This year, we are recognizing our national teacher winners in a little different scenario. Our national conference, originally scheduled for Salt Lake City, Utah, has been transitioned to a virtual summit due to the COVID pandemic. Each of our 8 National Teacher Award winners, along with our agriculture advocate, will be celebrated throughout the month of June on Facebook Live. The National Agriculture in the Classroom website has a full listing and schedule of when you can visit with these exemplary educators. We hope that you will join us for each session so that you can see how these folks incorporate agriculture concepts into their subjects every day. Each one of these teachers has worked diligently throughout the year to incorporate agriculture into their classrooms and to educate their students about the importance of agriculture in their students' daily lives. This program has been made possible by our very gracious sponsors at the USDA National Institute for Food and Agriculture and Farm Credit. Thank you to each of those organizations for your support. Today, USDA NIFA Agriculture in the Classroom National Program Leader, Dr. Carlos Ortiz, would like to say a few words about the importance of National Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Award and its program, and about the agricultural literacy outreach that is being conducted in pre-K through 12th grade students using National Agriculture in the Classroom. Dr. Ortiz, the screen is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the United States Department of Agriculture and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, I want to congratulate the 2020 winners of the National Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Award. The Agriculture in the Classroom program, in partnership with the National Agriculture in the Classroom organization, seeks to continue to help students, teachers, and those around them gain a greater awareness of the role of agriculture in the economy and society in general. This year, we're celebrating the accomplishments of 8 stellar K-12 teachers who have dug deep down and found innovative ways to reach out and engage students in the food and agricultural sciences. Some of the most effective ways of learning is by experience and by linking new knowledge to something already familiar. And our award recipients for this year excel at making these connections. They have found ways of integrating students' senses and goals into agricultural concepts and use these concepts then in science and other social lessons. They're using agricultural concepts to teach students about the world within and outside of their communities, work ethic, critical thinking, and how to run a business. And even most importantly, about mental and well-being. Activities like this have a profound effect on the current and future lives of these students. The National Institute of Food and Agriculture provides funding for programs like this, like the Agriculture in the Classroom organization and many other projects. We have different funding opportunities that I would ask you to please check our website and check off all the offerings that we have to really strengthen the work that you do at your institutions, at your schools. Currently, we have a big program that is called the Agricultural Workforce Training Program, and it's dedicated to provide credentials and really develop these students that for years, we have really pushed for 4 years and higher education, but we understand that there are other mechanisms that not everybody has to follow those paths. So I would encourage you to really look into our website and contact me if you have any questions about funding that could be possible for the training or retraining of teachers. If you want to develop new curricula or update your curricula, we have programs outside of the Ag in the Classroom program that I manage they can also provide funds for you to really update and have all these needs and have all of these funds to do things. So again, congratulations to this year's winners, to all the teachers out there. Our society needs you. Your enthusiasm and care are highly valuable. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz, and thank you for taking out some time to share with our program today. You're a valued new member of our team, and we welcome you aboard. Today, we're going to celebrate the accomplishments of Lynn Snow. Lynn is a 5th grade literacy and science teacher at Thomaston Grammar School in Thomaston, Maine. She has opened a Common Ground Garden Seed Company this year, and she does so each spring. This is an extension of her garden program. So Lynn, I'm going to bring you in now and tell us a bit about your program and how you integrate your garden and your school business. You have so much going on. So the screen is yours. Tell us your story.
Thanks, Tammy. So good afternoon from beautiful Thomaston, Maine today. It's about 75 here. I'm about, 5 miles directly from the coast in a small town of Thomaston, population approximately 4,000. And welcome to my yard. I was going to be in my school garden, but we were a bit worried that the connectivity wouldn't hold up out there. So here we are at my home. So tell you a little bit about the program. So we have a school garden in Thomaston Grammar School that was once a high school ropes course that we transformed in 2009 into a garden space. Before then, it was kind of a dumping ground for the school district. There were old soccer goals and tetherball poles, and it was all grown up. And the nice part was the actual telephone poles, though, because we've been able to utilize those as part of our garden. But that year, the fall of 2009, 3 colleagues and I, and about 50 5th graders took on the task and began a project that has turned out to be pretty successful. The seed company, that was a large part of my application, is how we fund the garden. There would be no garden without the seed company because the school district does not financially support the garden. And to be fair, we've never really asked them to include the garden in their budget. But the garden exists due to businesses, local businesses and individuals, and grant monies, and this student fundraising seed packet that we do each spring. And we are in planting year 11 now.
Lynn, how did you come up with the ideas for having student seed packages?
The seed packet started in 2011, and I cannot take credit for the first year because it was our guidance counselor, who was a master gardener, that started it. We needed money. So it's evolved each year into something better. We started with hand drawing every packet and filling them. And we got to a point that we just couldn't do that, and we mass produced the packets, but the kids do the design, they do the filling, they do the quality control, they take the orders, they're trained in sales. It's even come to a integrating cross-curricular with math and social studies and even the art, of course, because our packets still are hand-drawn, but mass-produced. So it's an idea that we have to have in order to continue on.
I understand. You mentioned a little bit about how things go cross-curriculum. So tell me how you involve, I know you have a reading literacy program that's very integral to this piece as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, for many, many years, I've taught the book Seed Folk, and Seed Folk helps to kick off the garden unit in the spring. It's a book written by Paul Fleischman. Each chapter is told by a different character, and each character represents different parts of the world and different age groups and different crops that were meaningful to them throughout the story. So we also try to bring those crops, or what we can here in Maine in our growing season, into our own school garden. That's a literacy integration. Math is integrated a lot with seed packet sales by collecting the data of what packet sells best, and the kids' personal data in their own sales. We even had them track their time last year on time cards and wrote them paychecks where we deducted taxes even so they could understand that whole application of real life work. We've talked about victory gardens and social studies to integrate a social studies unit. Oh my goodness, science, of course. The garden is science driven in so many ways. We can do all kinds of experimentation within the garden year round through science. In fact, this year I tried my hand at hydroponics. We were doing really well, and then we had this COVID-19 close our school down. So I had a lot of nice looking plants growing that kids really didn't get a chance to enjoy. Lots of ways to integrate cross-curricular in a school garden. You just gotta be creative about it.
Excellent. And I'm sure you're facing, teachers from across the United States are facing the same issues with how do we jump back in with our students when we return to school, and having alternate means to bring things in. Tell me a little about an aha moment, either amongst yourself or some of your students.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that question, Tammy. Aha moment. Oh boy. Okay, here's an aha moment. The school district did provide some funding a few years ago, and this is sort of connected to the garden. It was fenced in. There's a galvanized chain link fence around the garden. It was pretty dilapidated. And seeing our garden space, people were, so beautiful inside, let's fix the fence. And so they did. They took on that challenge, not a cheap one either, and replaced the fence. And what I was left with was an old lock, because I wanted to replace the locks. Now we had a new fence, and the locks are keyed the same, the garden shed and the different gates on the fence. So the lock, I'm holding on to it, and it gave me an idea of, let's use the fence now also to bring people to the garden, and let's create a learning locks fence. So we also have another part of our garden where people can come and put a lock on the fence to commemorate lifelong learning or a special teacher that they've had, or I just put one on for all of us who've survived teaching for 10 weeks via virtual classroom. So that was an aha moment, like what can I do with this lock and tie it into our garden space.
What a great way to make a memorial or honorary area at your school. That would probably grow for years, which apparently seems to be something that's just a continuation. Willie Grenier. Willie is the state representative for Maine. Willie is also past president of National Agriculture in the Classroom. Willie, I can see you there just beaming and proud. Tell us about your winner. How did you select her? What made her stand out in the crowd?
Well, we're extremely proud of Lynn, and she always is surprising me, and that is no lie. One of the first times I think that I was so impressed with their program, hadn't really heard much about it. Early on, we had a Maine Agriculture in the Classroom grant that went out to the garden, and then I really hadn't heard much. And life went on, and when the 2019 nominations came in for our Maine Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year program, Lynn didn't receive one, she received 3. And they included her colleagues and peer teachers and even her principal. Each one of these applications did something a little bit different that she was doing. And it just showed to all of our board and folks that went over these and judged these applications how versatile her program is and how many different things she's doing. Now, since then, of course, she won, and she's served as the Teacher of the Year for us across the state. She has done so many things to move agriculture in the classroom forward. She has represented us at fairs and different events all across the state. She has spoken at different conferences and even did a Pecha Kucha program that included Ag in the Classroom for some of her colleagues that were locally. And then she went to Little Rock to the national conference with us last year and brought home a whole armload of things that she was going to try, new things and people she connected with at the National Ag in the Classroom conference there. And when she came home, she still had enough energy to share her program with all of her teachers at Summer Teachers Institute and be a mentor to many of those teachers. It's really extraordinary. The energy she has for agricultural education and all the things she's done. Now we're looking forward to fall because I have this beautiful plaque that she hasn't seen yet, but that's going to come to her this fall. We're planning as soon as this pandemic stops the restrictions and we can get back with her, presenting this plaque to her in person and having a recognition program there at the school. So I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to seeing her garden this fall, because, you know, she hasn't stopped working on it. I've seen the pictures and I see she has the family members and colleagues and folks all very socially distanced apart, working on making that garden better so that when the kids come back in the fall and her students come back on premise, they'll have the same experience that the students have had for so many years with the TGS Common Ground Garden. Thank you so much, Lynn. From Maine Ag in the Classroom, from the students, from your colleagues, from all the teachers across the state.
Thank you, Willie. And I know you are so proud of just your educational leader that you have to kind of shine along to the others in your state. Lynn, I'm getting a lot of questions for you. Let's see, a couple of them here. First, what advice do you have for teachers who want to take the first step into integrating agricultural literacy into their classroom? You're a veteran now at this. What were some of the first steps that you would recommend?
Okay, some of the first steps. Well, I'll be honest, when we first started this in 2009, I was primarily an English and social studies teacher. And my great friend and colleague, now retired, Mrs. Ann Provakis, was a science teacher. And Mrs. Colleen Krebs was our guidance counselor and master gardener. So I kind of took a backseat to the gardening itself, but I have a lot of connections in the community. So I think that's a first step. Get some connections in the community, because we had no money. So we needed to have some friends around us to help us out, local hardware stores and Maine Ag in the Classroom. We had a grant from them one of the first years. You gotta have some connections. The other advice, and this is also a piece of honesty, is be prepared. It is a lot of work. It doesn't just happen in the school day. And you might want to prepare your family too, especially your spouse, because Mr. Snow also is extremely involved in the garden. He's been a help from the get-go, and I always give him credit as my best volunteer ever, because, well, he has no choice. Do it. That's my advice. Just do it. You'll learn as you go. I'm still learning. Any teacher that says I know it all is not fit to be teaching, because we're all learning all the time. So always something new.
Definitely, such true words there, especially with, if you were involved as an educator, the folks who were involved with you as your spouse, as your companions, they are going to get sucked up into the story of education with you, because it does take a team in so many of these things. And the fact that we do need a master of the garden, whether that's one teacher in his or her school or a collection to be those master gardener educators that are involved there. And I can tell that's something else that you have gradually just built that environment in your school. You touched on it a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about securing funding, especially at the beginning. I know you probably received state agriculture in the classroom grants, and you said you networked with other businesses. Did you apply for other scholarships? You know, how did you get those folks to be involved with you and support your program at your school?
Okay, so yes, Maine Ag in the Classroom has supported our school garden actually twice, just this past year with the hydroponics unit, and initially with all that we needed. We needed tools, and we needed compost, and we needed soil. I've also, was a local grant called Georges River Education Foundation, and they have been a help. They were a second hydroponics grant this year. I have to throw out credit to Lowe's. We were a Lowe's Heroes Award winner. And because of them, I actually have water in the garden. The garden has no water or electricity nearby. So, and water is so important when we have 13 raised beds out there and 3 rock gardens. So we have the poles from the ropes course used to build a rainwater collection roof and a stage underneath. And the whole thing was funded by the Lowe's Heroes. And then also a local roofing company, Horch Roofing, put on metal roofing and a gutter system. So we need rain, pray for rain in Maine. We need rain right now because my 50-gallon barrels are pretty well empty due to recent watering, but it collects the water and we're able to water the garden and not have to lug it from school anymore. So Lowe's, Maine Ag in the Classroom, local businesses, Georges River Education Foundation, all have been extremely huge help, as well as other small businesses and individual donations.
Wonderful. You mentioned water is an issue for you, but as a national program, we do across the state have a variety of different issues. How is gardening a challenge in Maine versus where it may be in another part of the country?
Probably our biggest challenge is going to be our season is pretty short. So I can't really plant a lot of summertime vegetables or crops in the garden because the kids are gone. I do have families, or until this year, I had families that took over the garden. They would apply and take care of it for the summer. But what I do instead is I plant a lot of, I shouldn't say this is my first time planting this summer. I should make clear about that. I've never planted till this summer. I've directed a lot of planting, but I haven't planted myself. So the kids plant root vegetables. We have a large raised bed for potatoes, and we have carrots and beets growing and onions and garlic, so that we can use those and harvest them in the fall when the kids are back at school. There are always some tomatoes and peppers left so that we can start the school year with making salsa. That's how we learn how to use knives and cutting boards in the classroom in September. Salsa and pasta sauce. But yeah, I guess the biggest challenge in Maine is you gotta, and it would be anywhere though, you gotta watch your season. What can you grow, what's gonna grow well, and how can the kids use it best?
Well, you kind of tagged on to another question that has been listed for us. It sounds like your students have experienced some knowledge and their behaviors and their outlooks on agriculture have changed. Tell me a little bit about the behavior change you see with your students as agriculture is integrated into their classroom on a regular basis.
Well, I'm kind of known as being kind of tough in the classroom, so I can't say I have a lot of behavior issues in the classroom, but I have none in the garden. There are no behavior issues because those hands are busy all the time. There's always something to do. They take the direction well. We establish rules like you can't ask for a job, you just smile and accept the one given to you. There's, you know, the safety rules out there, and they know if these aren't followed, then next time we come out to the garden as a class, they're not coming. They're going to go to the other 5th grade classroom and stay with Miss Johnston, is my colleague now, while I take a science class or sometimes even an ELA class out into the garden. Or she may take a math class out into the garden. So in order to participate, you have to follow the rules, and primarily you have to be safe. So the behaviors that I have in the garden, I have kids that want to be there. Usually the first question every spring when they arrive for science class is, are we going to the garden today? And they love to be out there. That's where they want to be. That's where I want to be too.
Hands-on learning is definitely one of the greatest incentives, and that seems like what you've got going there with yours. How do you get parents involved and the community involved with your program?
My Facebook page is pretty active. I shouldn't say our school garden Facebook page is pretty active. A lot of pictures posted about different things going on. I also like to share those posts to our community RSU 13 page. That's my district. In the summer, like I say, families are allowed to apply to take over the garden. It's all been planted. Their deal is they get to mow it, and they get to weed it in exchange for the crops throughout the summer. So I usually have quite a few applications, and I only choose 2 families because that's about all it will feed throughout the summer. So there's some competitiveness there to get the garden keys for the summer. It's quite an honor, and we make a big to-do out of it at our end-of-year ceremony. So volunteerism is good in my district and in the 5th grade. So they'll come in and help. I've had parents help with the seed packet fundraiser, even from home, who couldn't come in to help print out labels, different things like that. So just ask.
Well, that's awesome. And you must have anticipated the next question, which was about having folks involved in the summer. How do you select if you have so many apply? What are kind of criteria do you have to only be able to pick 2?
Well, the first thing I consider is their work ethic throughout the spring. What have I seen them do out there in the garden? And I remind them of that throughout the spring. Like, if you're going to apply, I'm watching every day out here, you know, what you can do and how you do it and your safety measures while in the garden. The applicants they have 100 words to tell why they'd want the garden. We're a small community. I know a lot of the families. I've had a lot of the siblings already in 5th grade. They also have to guarantee, the parents have to sign off on the application that they too will be there. They're not allowed to send kids to the garden. I mean, we have tools that you can get hurt on without parental support. I have chosen well every year, I should say that. I have not made a bad choice in all these years in the garden. And it seems like every year that family wants to up the next one and set the bar a little bit higher. This last summer, I would go to the garden, because usually I go once a week anyway. I live in the same town, and you know, I'll do a little weeding or pick up a little mowing if it needs to be done. I hardly had to do anything last summer, which is great because I have my own garden at home too.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to visit with Lynn Snow from Maine and Willie Grenier and Dr. Ortiz. I thank you all for joining us today. Just a few little reminders for everyone that's watching. Lynn mentioned that she had been to the National Agriculture in the Classroom Conference in the past. We are, as I said at the beginning, hosting a virtual summit this year. So check out our website and you'll find more information about that. Join in and you may find some pointers for your classroom for the coming school year of how you can connect your children with the story of agriculture a bit more. I would like to thank everyone for participating in today's recognition program of the 2020 National Excellence in Teaching about Agriculture Awards program, and our recipient that we are highlighting today, Lynn Snow of Maine. She sets a great example of agricultural concepts and how she's teaching them in such an exciting way and integrate them across the curriculum in her school. We hope that you've learned something new at our program today, and we invite you to join us for the remainder of these sessions. The next one will be on Monday, June the 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will be recognizing this year's Agricultural Advocate Award winner, Sarah Harwood from Utah. From National Agriculture in the Classroom, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we look to see you next week. Have a great day.